Before I say anything else, there will be spoilers, basically every spoiler in the book, so if you haven't seen the movie, maybe skip this one. But for those of you who have seen it or just don't care about spoilers, grab a seat. With every new installation of this franchise, we are usually introduced to at most 2 big predators in a single movie, but this time we have more than 3. But before I say anything else about the main topic of this video, I want to give some of my thoughts on Rebirth. Some people were asking to do a full review, but to be honest I don't think I will, because a lot of other people basically give you the gist. But for me personally, the movie was a 6 out of 10. A lot of people hated the movie because of the lack of fight scenes, which I guess is valid because we usually get one of those with each installment, but it wasn't that big of a deal for me. It was kind of a letdown, but not as much compared to the screen time of some animals. In the trailer they hyped it up so much to look as though the Spinosaurus or the T-Rex would have a major part to play in the movie, along with the D-Rex, but that wasn't the case. They each had like one section of screen time and were never seen again. It reminded me of those old sci-fi movies where sometimes random monsters would give you a good scare for 2 minutes and just never be seen again for the remainder of the 2-hour film. After the Spinosaurus and Mosasaurus collab, neither creature was seen or mentioned again. The same with the big T-Rex. The trailer itself is almost half of this thing's screen time, and the D-Rex only shows up at the very end, like the last remaining moments of the movie, aside from the introduction. Was it badass the way it pulled up? Yep, 1000%, and all the other dinosaur action scenes were top notch, but with the way how they were hyping it up in the trailer, you'd think they would play a bigger part in the movie. The people I really feel sorry for are those who haven't seen the movie yet and are just expecting the T-Rex and Spinosaurus collab to fight the D-Rex. There's almost no dinosaur on dinosaur action, and while it did incorporate some of those horror aspects in quotation marks for some scenes, it just felt kinda underwhelming, and some of the acting, well, to me at least, seemed a bit off, almost as though it was too forced, not to mention them calling a lot of the things dinosaurs when they weren't. I think Henry called the Mosasaurus a dinosaur and he was supposed to be the dinosaur specialist, but regardless, I don't think the movie is terrible as most say. It still did introduce us to new creatures and different variants of dinosaurs we had in previous installations, while also showing them pull off some unique behavior, so for me the movie was okay. With that side quest over, let's get into the reason most of you clicked. With the introductions of so many new predators and different versions of ones we already have in the franchise, it's a decently sized list to pick from when deciding which are the strongest of the bunch. But I think I've narrowed it down to the top 5 strongest carnivores, from helicopter grabbing fiends to geeked out angry birds. Okay, one more thing before we start. If you want to see more videos like this, then consider hitting that subscribe button, and join the description if you like anything prehistoric. Share art, share memes, and even discuss future topics for the channel. With the promotions finally over, let's get on with the video. In at number 5 is the Quetzalcoatlus. We already have a grasp on how powerful this animal is in Dominion, when it caught up to a flying plane and then opened it like a can opener. According to the cast in Rebirth, the island is supposed to have the stronger variants, or to be more specific, the more dangerous variants of these animals. I'll explain what I mean when I talk about number 4 on the list. The Quetzalcoatlus in Rebirth honestly looks more like a Hasicopteryx than anything else. Much more bulky compared to Dominions, and it's more aware of what's going on around it. When it comes to exact size, I can't really say, but based on the overall proportions next to people and it swallowing one whole, it seems to be shorter than the Minions version in both height and wingspan, but is almost certainly heavier. When it comes to some animals, length doesn't always equal greater weight, and the Quetzalcoatlus and Hasicopteryx are examples of this. While both of these animals basically have the same wingspan, or the Quetzalcoatlus barely has a larger wingspan when compared with mains, the Hasicopteryx was almost 150 kilograms heavier. And Rebirth's Quetzalcoatlus definitely has more in common with the Hats. I mean, look at the two of them side by side. Anyway, in the movie they are extremely fast, and for their size seem to be able to turn on a dime mid-flight, which again is Jurassic World ignoring real world physics. The moment this thing finds out people are trying to raid its nest, it geeks out. The thing starts pecking at them, and when it strikes the concrete wall, it breaks pieces off. And while its problem solving skills aren't anything to really be proud of, it can at least figure out certain things. For example, a hammer being flung directly behind its head. Its pupils just dilate and it immediately goes outside to check who dared throw something at it. And when it does, the murder stork starts free climbing up the damn cliff like Spider-Man, carrying its massive bulk up a vertical cliff like a squirrel would on an oak tree. And unlike most movies even outside of the franchise, this one doesn't need to pierce something to kill it. You know how you usually see pterosaurs running their beaks through someone to off them in most films? Well, this one doesn't need to do all that. It just grabbed the guy off screen and crushed him to death with its beak. Which is impressive considering that's not how you'd expect it to kill someone. You can at least get some sense of its true size when it finally makes it up the cliff. Its bill alone is like 8 or 9 feet compared to the actor it swallowed, who is 6'2". There isn't really much more to go off of because we only see it go after humans, which aren't exactly the best things to compare a bioengineered reptile to. But its raw size and power easily places it at number 5. Oh, and I almost forgot to mention, There's camera footage of a Quetzalcoatlus guarding its eggs on Jurassic World's YouTube channel. Most of the recording is just it either sitting on the nest or moving around a bit. But it eventually finds the secret camera and straight up takes it out. Most animals don't really bother with trail cams because they just see it as a weird foreign object, but this thing does not care. It felt out of place, so it removed it. Rebirth's Quetzalcoatlus really was on that demon time, but we're finally going to take a look at the big guns, starting with number 4. I think we've all seen the overall design of this animal in the trailer, but you really get to see the design in the movie. First of all, it has more in common with the Spinosaurus or whatever this thing is called than Acid 87. This animal is literally built for aquatic life. In some early guesses on how it would look, you see that it would walk upright, but I don't know if this thing can, and even if they do, it would look extremely awkward. One thing I'd like to add is that this island isn't the very first island in the franchise. I think this island was somewhat new and was meant to be like just before Jurassic World and not Jurassic Park. Remember how I said earlier that some of the creatures were more dangerous but not necessarily stronger than the original? Well, this is an example. I think anyone who has watched the movie knows every megaceropod in previous installments would maul one of these guys. Acid 87, the Giganotosaurus, even Rexy. I'd say at max they're like 7 or barely 8 tons. But they do have something none of the other theropods have. And that's pack hunting and symbiosis with another creature. Granted that in the first films the big theropods weren't really allowed to breed, or only one was made so they couldn't exactly form a population to hunt with, other than Buck and Doe. One-on-one, Acid 87 is definitely more dangerous because he actually hates people because of what InGen did to him in the past. So he doesn't kill us for food sometimes, but as a pack the Spinosaurus and Rebirth are more dangerous in the water, because even on land with how sluggish they seem to move, you could likely outrun them. Regardless, they are still powerhouses in their own right. There are 4 of them, but each has relatively the same strength, capable of ripping rails off the boat and even completely shaking the thing by jamming into it. Even when the boat tries to escape, these massive animals can somewhat keep up with the boat for a short period of time. And while they're moving at fast speeds, they're able to pinpoint exactly where certain targets are, even though they missed most of the shots, but that's plot armor. There was one fellow that was quite unlucky though. Bobby somehow got ambushed by one. With the sound of the boat, the Mosasaurus and the other Spinosaurus, poor chap couldn't hear anything, and the one Spinosaurus took advantage of this and just murked him. It seems like they do have something relatively similar to their Islazorna counterpart, and that's durability. When Bobby fires at these things, the ammo just bounces off of their skin most of the time, even the sail, which is supposed to be the weakest link. These guys actually work as a team too, with some taking turns and in some cases even helping each other out to get a meal by distracting or ramming the boat. One good thing I like about them and some others on this list is that they don't do their classic roar to announce themselves before they eat someone. One of these things slid into the water on the shore to make everyone think it's going back out to sea, and when they're distracted it just yoinks one of them. And in a very un-Jurassic franchise-like fashion, these guys know their limits. When the boat starts to head towards the rock at a very fast pace, they basically back off and let the Mosasaurus deal with all that. They even gave up when the people went on land, well, most did at least, so they know when to conserve energy. The same can't be said for the next theropod on the list. Even with hundreds of kilograms of meat in its belly, it still wants all the smoke. This T-Rex might be as big as Zeb or even bigger. Compared to Rexy, it's more robust and taller. I can see how this one was seen as too dangerous to be let on the other parts with the other 7 Rexes. The most horrific part about this thing was its speed in short distances. I know this was more for a shock factor than anything else, but hey, if the power scales are going to use this in their videos eventually, then I will too. In a second, this thing completely vanished when the raft came back down. It's not even as though it was prepared for the interaction. The moment the raft inflated and it woke up, the dude decided to disappear, and then reappear on the other side to drink some water. This guy was straight up horror farming for his screen time. I know damn well he knew that girl on the raft was right there, trying to act all nonchalant by drinking some water on the other side. Regardless, even when it faces the family, it doesn't roar or crash out like everything else in the previous movies. It acts curious at first and it moves slowly, just checking them out. And as they started to paddle away, he followed. By the way, I don't know if this thing is a male or a female, and it's not confirmed yet. I'm just going off what most of the internet genders it, so I'ma call it a he. In the future it might be confirmed to be a female though. Unlike the Rexes in the Jurassic Park movies, this one doesn't stop at the water. It embraces its novel roots. Who knows, maybe that's why it's so big too. My boy recreates the raft scene from the novel where the Rex chases Grant and the kids. And boy is it terrifying on film. This T-Rex glides through the water and surfaces like a crocodile at some parts, swimming fast enough to get under and flip the raft over. It somehow can even see clearly as the current is rushing right into its face when it ducks under the water. It doesn't just attack the raft wildly at first in hopes of catching Isabella. It takes a peep under the water to see what side of the raft she's on and targeted that side. But when she kept moving, it just got fed up and crashed out on the thing. I did find it weird that it didn't destroy the raft, but who knows, maybe it didn't really try that hard after realizing no one was in it. Like basically most of the dinosaurs in the movie, we don't get to see any scenes where we could scale its overall strength. But at least we have an idea of just how fast it is. Imagine being gone in the blink of an eye when it just wakes up. Sheesh. And hey, it was massive and deemed too dangerous to be introduced on Sarna with the other Rexes, so maybe it was too aggressive towards them as well. That is if this island did in fact exist before Jurassic Park itself, and not just Jurassic World. But even with all of these abilities, it still made me upset with how no one died. They basically edged us with the trailer. I honestly thought someone was gonna get eaten. I sound like a weirdo, but none of you, yes you, fix your posture by the way and sit up straight, thought not a soul was gonna get eaten. Like 85% of us expected someone to get eaten. So far we haven't gotten any insane feats from the big hitters yet on the list, but the next one makes up for this by casually catching a flying helicopter. The Indominus Rex was hyped on the trailer to seem like this horribly abused mutant that deserved at least some amount of our sympathy, but that thing gets none of mine. I mean sure it was probably tested on constantly, but they didn't show us any part of that which could make our hearts feel bad, well mine at least. This thing is straight up malevolent. Its escape happens in the most random way possible too. A Snickers raptor goes into one of the electrical vents and causes a malfunction, and then it escapes. The mutant just stands behind the guy at first, basically letting the dude know it was behind him first to build up the fear factor, then it grabbed him and the rest is history. This thing has a massive size upgrade compared to its first appearance. At the end of the movie this thing dwarfs the helicopter. At a bare minimum this is honestly lowballing it. I'd say it weighs at least 13 tons. When Henry signals the helicopter, we think that light coming towards us is the helicopter on its own, but nope. The D-Rex has the aircraft in its jaws and then it effortlessly just tosses it aside. Like you with a broomstick, no resistance whatsoever, not to mention it was actually crushing the helicopter when biting it. So even with its messed up jaw structure, it has a powerful bite. I also don't see it moving in pain. Most people, including myself, thought this thing would be in pain moving for long because of its awkward build, but it honestly doesn't seem like it, so it's evident that it has size and power on its side. But in fiction that isn't the only defining factor when deciding the victor of a fight. To be honest, we haven't gotten any fight scene with this thing and any other large carnivore, so we don't know its fighting capabilities. I don't know if it ever ran into the T-Rex. I mean it could have, and both just decided a full on fight was not worth it and decided to keep out of each other's territories. Who can truly say? But due to its size, arm strength and raw power, I give it the edge over the Rex. Who knows, to be honest. It doesn't just swing its arm around wildly either. This thing timed a strike on the car when Rupert was in it. The moment it touched the bonnet, the car came to a complete stop. It has very dexterous hands too, some of the best in the franchise. The Indominus and Spinosaurus are the only ones we've seen so far that are able to straight up grab someone, but this thing does with so much more ease. It again builds the fear factor, almost as though it was toying with Rupert, eventually grabbing and then biting him in half. One notable weakness this thing has that makes me remember the Scorpius is its obsession with fire or bright lights. Just like the Scorpius, this thing will drop whatever it's doing, even when people are right in front of it. The D-Rex will ignore them and go directly to the source of light. I think there was some information saying no human genes were ever put in a dinosaur in Fallen Kingdom, but you never know. Maybe the Scorpius and D-Rex had something a little sapient put in their makeup, but even the D-Rex doesn't come close to the top spot. In terms of size and power, it's simply not a competition. I think this one was a no-brainer. How could a Mosasaurus not take the top spot? This fin whale-sized aquatic reptile is a powerhouse of the franchise, like its blue counterpart. They don't say the thing is mixed with whale, but at this point it's gotta be. Even the first Mosasaurus, it sounds like a whale and is able to communicate with humpbacks. The one in Rebirth not only sounds like a whale, but also has striations under the belly and neck, like most baleen whales do. Maybe this actually was their first attempt of a Mosasaurus, but they did not deem it good enough to be showed off. Both are horribly inaccurate compared to the real thing, but Rebirth's version actually looks better in my opinion. The color scheme is cool as well. This thing has a mutualistic relationship with the Spinosaurus on the island, where both parties help each other obtain food. It could also tip the boat over without doing too much. The boat itself appears to be a mid-sized survey vessel, so anywhere between 25 and 45 tons, but I'm not sure. So I don't think there's any question that this thing is powerful, but it's also very fast. It can outswim the boat at max, which I guess is a given seeing how streamlined it is despite its bulk. A cool thing I like about it though is the fact that this Mosasaurus doesn't act like a boss or something. I came into this thinking the Mosasaurus would be the dominant figure, and while it could more than likely take out all four Spinosaurs, it still helps them the same way they help it. As a matter of fact, it seems to lend them more of assistance than anything. Whether it was just a coincidence or deliberate, it tipped the boat which almost made someone fall over directly into the jaws of one of the Spinosaurus. This honestly could just be a coincidence as I said, but I like to think the Mosasaurus knew what it was doing. It's smart too. I'd go so far as to say orca smart. When the boat's heading towards the shore, it braces the boat so it would scrape against the rocks and get destroyed. But unfortunately, even it wouldn't risk getting stranded by going into the shallows. To be honest, that boat should have broken down the moment it hit those rocks, but plot armor saved most of the crew. To be honest, that's pretty much it for the Mosasaurus. I mean, it greatly outclasses everything else on the island in terms of size, probably aside from the Titanosaurus. So like the Mosasaurus in the original Jurassic World, it doesn't have to do much to show off its power. So yeah folks, that's basically my list on the top 5 strongest carnivores we see in Rebirth. If you're wondering why the Mutodon isn't here, I think the Quetzalcoatlus would win in a one-on-one fight. It's bigger and has its own arsenal of deadly weapons, but technically this list is not right if we include some off-screen creatures. If I had to include the Megalodon and Dunkleosteus, the Quetzalcoatlus would be knocked off, but the Spinosaurus would stay, since I don't think the Dunk could beat one, but that Megalodon jaw is massive. So it would definitely be at least in second place right behind the Mosasaurus. It's weird that they had so much more trouble with the Mosa and not the Meg. Wait, what am I saying? The Mosasaurus is smarter and has a fleet of sail boys on its side. Despite that, I still think there's way too much plot armor in this film. Only 5 people die in the entire movie. Somehow the Spinosaurus couldn't get anyone else, and the T-Rex, despite being a more deadly version of the ones on Sorna, couldn't end anyone. Like, were they scared to take out the kid or the dad? As for Duncan, I don't even want to get into that. That D-Rex was right in his face and he was alone, yet somehow he survived and swam out into the ocean. But you know what, I got to see some cool new dinosaur designs, so I won't complain. And hey, maybe Jurassic World Rebirth were the friends we made along the way. But that's pretty much it folks. For those of you who have watched the movie, because I assume only those of you who watched the film click this video, what do you think of the list? Is it accurate or would you change it up a bit? Let me know in the comments. But anyway, that's it for now folks. I'll see you in the next upload.